Okay, back to my drawing. I'm closing one eye. I'm leaving the confines of this square, and I'm coming over to this side, and I'm just making another straight line this way. And by the way, I know that this thing has a rounded top, but we'll get to that. Okay? The pestle, wait a minute. Is the pestle the thing you smash, or okay? This is the mortar. The pestle is the smasher. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, when I'm over in this square here, and by the way, these squares are much bigger than 2 inch, just so that you can see what's going on. When I'm over here, I'm seeing that the part that you smash with, the pestle.
Yes.
Thank you. When I look at it, it just barely makes it around this corner here, all the way over here, which is kind of off the page, and then kind of there's another little tiny triangle here, just barely, okay? And then the contour of it way over here, when it finally makes it over, is just about halfway, but not quite, so somewhere around there, okay? Then right above this, I see that it comes up like this, and then there's this mushroom thing that almost makes it to the corner here, and then kind of, it does not touch this line, but then it pops out the other side, and makes it about almost halfway up that way, not quite, more like about right there. And again, straight lines are useful for making curves. Okay. Now, if this were a pencil, by the way, these lines would not be so horrifically incorrect and everything else. But I don't care. I'm just trying to show you how I see my way around a square. With the pencil, you can do these very faintly and then reinforce them. I don't have much latitude with the marker pen, but I want you to be able to see this. Okay? Now, the bottom edge comes down to about right here. I'm looking very carefully. I'm checking my home base again, my line of sight, and I'm seeing that if this is here, the bottom edge of the opening comes about right about there, and then rises gradually this way, something like that, and then of course pitches up again that way. Now this over on this side, this contour does not make it halfway up. It's something about like this, right about there. We said that this one was just slightly above, so now I can start to see, well, this obviously has to connect and then come to more of a point down that side and then come up that way. Then I can see that this pitches in just a little bit, then becomes quite vertical, takes this long descent, and finally terminates almost right on that point. Almost right there, maybe a little bit more on the inside as I'm looking at it. Okay, going back to my home base. You see, by the way, as I'm returning to home base, remember I said my home base, or my line of sight, is that plumb with the line markers on it. As I go back to it and adjust myself a little bit, it can make the difference of this line being out here or being here. Okay? Just that little bit of whatever you're doing. And so that's why you can't simply look at the grid. You've got to come back to a fixed point and then go look at the place where you're drawing. And then check it again. But pretty soon you get this kind of looking here, and then pretty soon it starts to make good sense. Okay. What else can we say about this? If this is here, then this thing here comes, and it's somewhere around here. I'm just looking at all these things as little shapes, like little triangles. Okay. Here's another example right here. I've got this little guy here. I'm drawing in that vertical line there just to show you. You're looking at that little thing as a shape. Okay? That little shape right there, I'll draw it large for you. It's a beautiful little thing. It has this represents the top edge here, and then there's the line here, like this, and then this is rising the other way. So you start to, you know, with the grid lines, you're still seeing shapes like this, okay, very, very clearly, as if you were drawing it without the grid. You know, you're still seeing shapes. See, there's still, my point is, there's still plenty of drawing going on here. This is not a matter of simply, oh, you know, fill in the blank. It's so easy. It's actually still a lot of seeing as well. Okay. I'm looking now and seeing that this here comes to about right here, and then this makes it down this way. This is angling a little bit more like this. I'm going to quickly. Well, I don't want to be too fast. You know what? I'll take this opportunity right now to explain a whole other way of drawing by drawing this lower base part. When you're painting, and as a departure from the straight line kind of construction, you know, by the way, this eventually does turn into a curve. It eventually does, okay? This eventually turns into the right shape. This gets a little bit sawed off, this one gets sawed off some more, and pretty soon, it starts to turn into something round. This gets a little bit fatter, okay? But you don't think that way at first. You think more in terms of angles and directions as it relates to the squares that you're drawing in, all right? Now, when you're painting or when you're feeling like you want to try something else, it's a lot of fun to try this. Now, I'm going to go ahead and show you this contour down here, just doing it in a very different way. First of all, I'm going to look and get my line of sight. I'm going to look down here. And sometimes it's a lot of fun to just try this. Try just one sweeping line, looking down here. Then it comes out. It almost makes it to that line right here. Sweeps this way. Comes all the way over to this other side here. And then comes up on that side there. In other words, you try to do it all at once and a little bit less analytically. Now, when I'm painting, I might tend to do it like this because it's much more fluid and you're getting a very rough approximation. Not that rough, okay? That's obviously lopsided. But then you might come back in with some more color or something else and say, okay, I was off here. This pushes in a little bit more and then it has this hump. In other words, it's a little bit more fluid and not quite as analytical, but you're just kind of, it's not that you're looking less, you're just trying to see this entire thing here as a shape quickly and putting a line around it, okay? So that's another way. I could have done it here as well. I could have done something like this first. I could have done this. You know, a big swinging elliptical shape like I'm making now. I could have made this way. I could have gone here, come across here, and said, oh, it comes up almost to the other side of the square here. So in other words, starting to think more generally as opposed to piecing together a curve. It's also good to see how curves flow around one another and connect. And you know, this is sometimes called in drawing through, where you do this, and you just get a general sense of how this. I'm drawing through here. This one goes here. This one comes down. Okay. So that's another approach altogether. Try both. I strongly urge you, when you see a curve, and you're going to be seeing plenty of them, if you're drawing apples and oranges, try doing this. Try structuring your curves, and try being very strict. Learn to visually recognize things like halves of squares. Learn to recognize where those things are. Get a good feel for that. Okay? Not the best half I've ever drawn. There you go. Okay, learn to recognize, you know, within that, quarters and even eighths, you know. Learn, in other words, after a while you start to feel that's kind of over there and that feels about a quarter, it feels about an eighth. Or of course, you could say something else. You could say thirds, you know, here, here, and here on a square. And so you're relating all of your things always to the little squares as you go. And then learn to switch back and forth in your mind between this kind of analytical straight line or thirds, quarters, to learn to switch back and forth to a more free connected kind of drawing as well, where you're saying, okay, this thing is in fact an ellipse, and I'm going to be very free. Can you see how this is more like painting? It's more like something you do with a brush, and you get it going, and then, by the way, you could also go from object to object. I could go from here. I could say, oh, well, this one's here, and it goes all the way up over that one. Okay, and I just jumped, 2 whole squares there, and I can see that it goes one more square over here, and then comes back, and it goes something like this. Now I'm just doing this again, okay? Jumping all the way over one square. It ends up, I don't have my other square drawn, actually ends up a little bit past, just a tiny bit past that square over there. Okay? You can do that too. Boy, this looks like hell with this marker, but I wanted to make sure you could see it. Okay? What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and set up my, my whole drawing with pencil, now that I've shown you how to relate to a square. Okay, yeah, relating to a square, doesn't that sound nice?